Just a few months ago, Sudan was internationally celebrated for the peaceful change in the country. But now the military is claiming power for itself. So is the dream of democracy over already? Well, after the military coup in Sudan, doctors and officials called for civil resistance through a general strike. The Sudan's Doctors Central Committee announced on Tuesday night on its Facebook page that all hospitals in the country would be withdrawn and that only emergencies would be treated. The military hospitals will be completely withdrawn, it said. Employees of the ministries, administration, and the central bank announced a general strike that night. After the military came to power in the East African country with around 44 million inhabitants, the UN Security Council planned to hold an emergency meeting in New York that afternoon. The highest military representative in Sudan, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, announced on Monday the disempowerment of the civilian government members and declared a state of emergency. The internet, the cellular network, and parts of the landline networks have been disrupted since Monday morning, and most people can no longer make calls. The whereabouts of Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, who has headed the interim government together with al-Burhan since August 2019, is unclear. According to the United Nations, the military has taken control of the capital Khartoum. The airport, bridges, and state television are in the hands of the armed forces, and the entrances to the city were blocked. In view of the takeover by the military in Sudan, the US government is suspending aid payments to the East African country for the time being. State Department spokesman Ned Price said in Washington on Monday that $700 million in aid planned to support Sudan's democratic transition would be halted for the time being. Price demanded that the country's military immediately release all detained political actors, fully restore the civilian-led transitional government, and refrain from any violence. The UN Security Council was holding a non-public emergency meeting on Tuesday afternoon. The meeting was requested by Great Britain, Ireland, Norway, the USA, Estonia, and France. The military in Sudan had previously seized power in a coup. Sudan's highest general, as I said, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, had declared the transitional government and the Sovereign Transitional Council dissolved on state television and announced the formation of a new government with what they call competent people. The deposed Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok and other civilian members of his government are being held by the military in an undisclosed location. With the measures, he wanted to correct the course of the revolution, said al-Burhan in his address. At the same time, he assured that he would still support a transition to a civilian state and free elections in 2023, although he released all those responsible for it from their duties. Sudan would also adhere to international agreements. The Ministry of Information spoke of a coup. Across the country, internet services, as I said, were interrupted and important roads and bridges were closed. And Hamdok's office called on the population to demonstrate by all peaceful means in order to bring their revolution back from the thieves. In Sudan, after the overthrow of ruler Omar al-Bashir in 2019, a so-called Sovereign Council took over the affairs of state in which the military and civilians share power. Since then, the country has been in a fragile transition phase that should end with the establishment of a civilian government in 2023. High inflation, economic problems, and deep political divisions exacerbate the situation. In the past week, tens of thousands of Sudanese took to the streets in several cities to demand the complete handover of power to the civilian population. Other demonstrators, however, demanded a return to military rule during a sit-in for several days in front of the presidential palace in Khartoum. It would be a disaster if Sudan would turn back the clock after decades of dictatorship, said the UN Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.